Second trailer for Nolan's Odyssey movie is finally out, a couple months before the movie is set to release. So what does it tell us in terms of what we can expect from the film itself? Well, like most Hollywood adaptations of ancient Greek sources, it looks entertaining and well made, but at the same time has some infuriating aspects about it. As I mentioned the first time around, I don't have any issue with anachronistic visual elements as long as they keep the style within the confinements of ancient Greece. Because even back then, scenes from the Homeric epics painted on vases also had anachronistic weaponry, and there are even some anachronisms in the poem itself, given how it was an oral tradition hundreds of years before it was put to writing around the 8th century BCE. Personally, I would prefer that it was faithful to the time period, but it's understandable if not for this case. I also have no problem with the diversity of the cast that many seem to harp on, probably because I'm used to not seeing Hellenic people in films depicting Greece. What I saw as a red flag in the first trailer was the scene of Odysseus kneeling to Agamemnon, specifically because this denotes that they are inserting medieval culture into a Bronze Age epic. Once again, Greeks did not kneel to kings or in general. Kneeling was not practiced or customary at the time, and the people of that era found it insulting for many reasons. Odysseus was a king himself and spoke to Agamemnon as an equal, sometimes rather scathingly in fact. Unfortunately, my worries that this scene would not be an isolated incident turned out to be warranted, because there are many such infractions displayed in this trailer as well. And what makes it worse is that there are even parallels to the 2004 film Troy. Yeah, that Troy. Leather tunics, steel full-plate armor, Viking ships. I mean, if we're going to go that anachronistic, why not add AK-47s and hand grenades? I say it in jest, of course, but it really is off-putting to see ethnic elements that not only have a separation of nearly 3,000 years from the narrative, but are also not appropriate for the culture they represent in the film. And still, the most culturally inappropriate aspect is not a stylistic choice. It goes much deeper than just the visual elements. In this trailer, Odysseus says that
no one could stand between me and home. Not even the gods.
Which is very reminiscent of the portrayal of Achilles in Troy. Of course, in that movie, there were no supernatural elements. Achilles played the role of a Bronze Age atheist. But in this case, Nolan is not discarding the mythological component of the Homeric poem. In order to make his protagonist appear stronger, more determined, and perhaps even more rebellious, he portrays him as ready to challenge even the gods themselves. But that just shows that he's missing the entire point of the Odyssey. All the nuance found in Odysseus' circumstances of being human and subject to the elements, or the gods in this case, and using cunning, grit, and the ability to adapt to the whims of these supernatural beings through his speech and through his actions. This seems almost entirely lost through this single line. To later confirm that this is the direction the narrative is moving towards, we have this scene, which is again almost identical to what we saw in the movie Troy. Just keep in mind that Greeks did not behead statues of religious figures. Polytheistic societies were far more tolerant of the gods of other cultures exactly because they believed that those could exist too. There were even gods that were cross-cultural, like Zeus Ammon, who was a fusion of both Greek and Egyptian theology. Beheading statues in this manner is a later Abrahamic religion style of vandalism. What I find confounding is that Nolan has proven to be able to merge the fictitious elements of a story he is adapting with a reasonable level of accurate realism to great success. He did so in Interstellar, which is his highest rated film according at least to IMDb. Why he chose to rid himself of all such boundaries for the Odyssey is something I will never understand. To be clear, I believe that this rendition of the epic will be entertaining to watch, and most people will not catch many of the grievances I am expressing. Even Troy, despite the ridiculous script, was a well-directed movie and will go down as having some of the best, and even some of the most accurate, fight scenes of any movie depicting ancient Greece to date. But at the same time, I believe we need to rid ourselves of the notion that a movie cannot be both entertaining and accurate. For a writer or director, reasonably restricting yourself to the boundaries of the source material while also making it distinctly yours in style should be a welcome challenge rather than an obstacle to cast aside. But more on that in the near future. In addition, I have a video lined up about a wild conspiracy theory relating to Odysseus, which will also include a very special guest, so stay tuned. I'll catch you then. Cheers.